Hello, good afternoon and welcome along to Destination Wellbeing. My guest this afternoon is Roslyn Bell, and I had the pleasure of meeting Roslyn a few weeks ago. Was very much inspired by her story, which we're going to share with you today. And I asked her along to be a guest on Destination Wellbeing. So you're very welcome to Destination Wellbeing, Roslyn, and thank you for agreeing to come in and have a chat with me.
You're welcome, Joanne. It's my pleasure.
Thank you, and I'm sure loads of people will be very inspired by your story. And so using the word inspired, it was at a woman inspiring women meeting here in Newry that I met Roslyn and heard her story. So certainly I do believe that she'll be a great inspiration to anybody that listens in today. Just to remind any of our viewers, we will be touching on some health and well-being aspects today. So just bearing in mind that if you have any concerns about your own health and well-being, that it's your GP that you visit first, and that you're first and foremost that we always take responsibility for our own health and our own well-being. But Roslyn, as I say, your story was a very remarkable story, and certainly the parts of it that I heard. But and it's been such a journey for you since that. So would you like? Are you happy to share some of your story for our viewers this afternoon?
Well, yes, of course I am, Joanne. I suppose you know, we just want to talk about the highlights, don't we?
Yes.
I suppose there's been lots of highs and lows. It's been a wonderful journey so far. And at 25, whenever I felt life was perfect, had just moved into a nice new house my builder husband had built us. And we had twins, a boy and a girl, a 2-year-old. And I worked in an office, and I phoned home to say that I'll be home in 20 minutes. And on the way down from the office to home, it started to rain really heavy thunder and lightning, and as I went round a corner my car aquaplaned and I hit a tree. And it's one of those moments where you think, you know, hold on, it'll be all over in a minute. And I'm braking and I'm holding tight, but it's like it just changes your life forever. I broke my foot, my ankle, my kneecap, my pelvis, broke 2 ribs, broke my breastbone, fractured my skull in 2 places, and the steering wheel hit me here and ripped this side of my face off. So that was a very challenging time. I had an outer body experience as well at that time, and I had to learn to walk, and there was lots and lots of challenges. And then I talk about whenever I started to feel whole and get myself together again. 2 days before my 30th birthday, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. So at that time I just thought, you know what, I've got a choice here. I really have the victim story to last me a lifetime, but I knew in myself there was more to me than that.
Than either labels, really.
Yes, and that I didn't want to be a victim, you know, and I had fought hard to keep myself together and to get back walking and to get myself back into as normal as you can be. And I decided that life was for living, and I started, I always wanted to have my own business, and 9 months from surgery I opened my first business.
Fabulous, yeah. And you know, even just talking to you and feeling the passion in that story, and the enthusiasm that you had for life and for living, I've goosebumps just chatting to you. And as you say, you know, learning all of those things, I think when any of us go through challenging periods in life, we do have 2 choices, don't we? We can either let them victimize us or allow us to grow and to develop. And sometimes, although it can be very difficult to see at the time, and it's not always for everybody, some of the greatest challenges are the biggest teachers, aren't they?
Yeah, well,
the biggest areas for growth.
Yeah, I always say your darkest days are your greatest gifts.
Yes.
Even though we don't realise it at the time. And, you know, and I know there was a time where I lived from minute to minute. And then hour to hour. And I remember finding a little book I had wrote. I am so proud of myself, I've gone a whole day without crying.
Well, and as you say, just to be able to get to a full day, as you say, it starts off with minute to minute, and you're nearly crawling yourself back up through that. And I suppose a lot of us, those challenges come in different ways. I know, like myself, a few years ago, emotionally we had a lot of grief and deaths in the family, and there was a lot going on. And like that too, I was in a job that I wasn't particularly happy doing, and there was a lot going on, but that was my darkest days.
Yes.
But it was coming back through that.
Yes,
And I know we both have taken a lot of inspiration from books.
Yes.
For me, books are just such an amazing tool, and that has I don't know if anybody remembers back, but a while back, anybody that has been watching some of the shows in Destination Wellbeing, often you would have heard me talking about Brandon Bayes, The Journey, and Louise Hay particularly, and you've had the pleasure of meeting Louise.
Yes, I did. I met Louise. Well, I became a fan of Louise's in the 1980s, mid-80s. A friend of mine gave me a book, How to Heal Your Life, which was her first book ever, and she's got this really flowery tunic in the front and her hands held up in the air, and I read it and carried it around like a Bible almost, and I thought, you know what, if Louise can do this, I can do this, and if she can put herself back together, I can put myself back together. And it gave me hope and inspiration, and at that time in Ireland, that was not really words that people said.
No, it was okay in hippie America, which is where Louise was circulating, but it certainly wasn't
and it was
the
like
norm here.
What we would call very Americanized.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I had this book, and then I heard that Louise was coming to London. This was only a few years ago, and I went to London to the I Can Do It Louise Hay conference, and I met her on her 80th birthday.
Wow, and she's now 88, 87, 88?
Yeah, something like
and
that.
And still inspiring people.
Yes.
She's just recently released a new book.
Yes.
You Can Heal Your Heart, I think, is the latest
That's
one.
right.
So, and she's co-authored it. But I think, when we're at that phase in our lives, it's very important to surround ourselves with positive, inspirational material. And as you're talking about books, but I would often, we're talking about books here and how important they are. But I think now we're so lucky that there's so many other resources. There's websites. There's
I love the CDs for the car. I get 6 CDs, and I maybe travel from here to Dublin, so it's 1 CD down the road and 1 CD up the road. And my favourite CDs was Zig Ziglar. I don't know if you know him, and he's very, very funny, but very, very poignant stories, and especially about conditioning and, why we do things that actually makes you think about, now why do I do that? Do I do that? There was one wee piece where he said that his wife always cut the end of the ham. So he asked her, in his American accent, honey, why do you cut the end of the ham? And she said, well, because my mother done it. So they phoned the mother, and she said, oh, well, she cut the end of the ham because her mother done it. So they phoned Grandma, and Grandma said she cut the end of the ham because her tin wasn't big enough. So everyone else just done it because someone else done it, but the first person actually had a reason.
Yeah, well, funny, interestingly, it's a very funny one that I noticed. I, for a long time, ate the whole of an apple.
Okay.
The full apple, seeds, core, everything, and I was a big apple fan, and I would have eaten, and people would have noticed that I'd done it, but I did it completely subconsciously. I didn't even really realise I was doing it. And what I discovered why I done it was that as a child, and it was probably a fairly insignificant moment really, but my father had shouted at me for not eating the whole apple, for wasting food, as like we all grew up growing up in the 80s, and we'd starving children in the world that we needed to, and this was the normal thing. So I had wasted some of the apple, but had been too young to really figure out how much was waste and how much was okay
to throw away.
So I just must have subconsciously decided I'll eat all of this apple instead of, and for a lifetime. And like that too, that pattern could repeat it. Well, I'm now aware of it, but certainly, as you said, the CDs are a fantastic tool, and even hopefully shows like Destination Wellbeing, and there's more and more of those that we can have access to really good positive messages on a regular basis.
And I think what's really important to remember, just to catch yourself thinking of negative things, you can only think of one thing at a time. So whenever you think negative, then just think, oh, well, let's think something positive or something happy, and then you can cut down. And it's okay to think negative for a moment until you learn. It's like learning to ride a bicycle or learning to write or play the piano or whatever. You don't learn it overnight. So this is the same thing where you have to train yourself to be in that nice place as much as you can.
Yeah, and there's a time, it's about balance as well, I think, isn't it? I mean, as they say, we sometimes need the rain to appreciate the sunshine, and we need those times in our lives.
And I think it's important to remember there are times that you're allowed to feel sad, you know, and not feel guilty for it as well. Like if we lost someone that we love, or my favourite one is whenever my children went away, and you know, I said I was so happy for my daughter, but with having twins, everything happens so fast
together.
Yes, and my daughter left home to live with her fiance, who's a lovely guy, and she's married to him now, and we absolutely adore him, and I was so happy for them, but I was so sad for me. And that was in October, and in January then my son, who had waited what he calls a lifetime for this fabulous job, went off to England, and I went over and helped him set up home over there and came back, and I was so happy for him, but I was absolutely devastated. The two of them were gone. And I said to my friends, I'm in the I'm happy for the twins and sad for me moment, you know, and it's allowing yourself and knowing that this too will pass, and that you know,
and that you need to experience it and express it and release it and let it go, and not pretend that it's not happening either. Because I think sometimes when we go into the positive thinking mode, and people, one of the things that concerns people about it is that am I pretending all of the time? And when you get into it, it's not like you're pretending all the time, because it becomes real. But there are times when you have to not allow yourself, you catch the moment and you don't allow yourself to be dragged into something that is just spiraling out of control for no reason, whereas something like genuine loss or a genuine emotional experience is a different thing.
And that's why I felt that I needed to, you know, to talk about that, because it is important, you know, that you're not being that like that you're on some happy thing all the time, and then people, you know, don't realize that you're not, you know, they think you're not acknowledging your emotions, and you are. And it's like where I said, well, look, I am happy for the twins, but what's going on in here? Why do I feel like this wee girl's all sad and lonely? And it's because, you know, you look after them for 20 years, and then all of a sudden they've just got up and went overnight, and it's just allowing you to you know, get used to the new normal.
And that takes time as well. It all falls in. And I know another part of your journey has been integrated energy therapy. And on Destination Wellbeing, again, for any of our regular viewers, we've had different energy therapists in. But tell me a little bit more. Tell our viewers a little bit more about integrated energy therapy. I'm familiar enough with it.
Well, integrated energy therapy is you connect with the angelic realm through the angel Ariel, and it's very calm and very relaxing energy. It's kind of, I suppose, it's a hands-on therapy, and you can, you know, heal yourself, your own body as well. And it's called, their slogan is "Get the issues out of your tissues." Where we, you know, for instance, like if you have been heartbroken about something, this is just a scenario where you get this energy flowing around your heart that's very heavy, and as Louise says, the dis-ease of this negative energy creates the disease, where, you know, if you don't treat it, you disintegrate and die. It's all the D's, isn't it? And that sounds very harsh, but it's a fact of life, and you know, it's a really real. I like the energy of it. You know, there, as you know yourself, Joanne, there's different energies out there that you can, like Reiki and whatnot.
There's bioenergy therapy. There's different ones there, and I think that's the key message for people is that there are different options. It doesn't have to be a one solution fits all, and at different stages in your life, different ones will be right for you as well, depending on what's going on. But certainly the integrated energy therapy, as you say, it's such a calm and very relaxed therapy to experience as well.
It's very gentle and very loving energy. And obviously, you know, we all have these energy fields, and you know, there's things that we connect with, and as you say, with at different times. Like I done Reiki 1 and 2, and then I thought, that wasn't just as gentle for me as I would have liked. And then I done the integrated energy therapy 1, 2 and 3, and then I done my master's last year with Stephen Thayer from America. He's in New York, who actually started the therapy. So
that was lovely.
Yeah, it was lovely.
And I think a lot
experience.
of it, we touched on about healing ourselves, and any of the energy therapies that anybody is using or decides to do, it's about really, for me, my passion for them is that it's actually about empowering the individual to, with the help possibly of a therapist, and we've had craniosacral therapists and that in as well, with that support and that loving, supportive environment that someone can create for you and hold you in that space, but it's actually allowing the body the ability to heal itself. And in turn from healing, I suppose, for personal experiences, is that when I take the time out to heal the body issues, then parts of your life begin to completely change as well.
Absolutely. And it was even whenever I had the car accident, you know, when the doctor said to me, look, your ankle and your foot is, your ankle is smashed like a bag of chips and your foot is pretty shattered, and you know, you might walk without a stick but not without a limp. And at the time I just went, oh no, I haven't time for this, doctor. And you know, whenever you get into energy, then I realised whenever I put my hand up, I'm stopping the energy coming to me. I totally refused it. And it depends, you know, if I had been very open, I might have taken it in, and then you realize, you think that that is what, you know, we are what we think, we become what we think. And because I refused it and done everything that I could, I neither walk without a stick, or with a stick, or without with a limp.
Yeah, you walk perfectly, perfectly normal. And I think that is one of the key things as well, is where I have I suppose an aversion to labels, and particularly with young children, where we're talking about ADHD or autism, or these that we nearly take ownership of what the label is. And when I was listening to an interview recently, possibly on Hay House Radio or one of them, but they were saying, you know, for our own health and our well-being, don't ever say things like my arthritis. Or
your own
my this. Don't take that ownership of disease, my diabetes, my any of those things, because they're not you.
No.
They may be in you somewhere for this period of time, but they're not the person. And
and if you really want to get rid of something, you know, every now and again just say, you know, I release this anger, or I release this whatever sadness from me, I acknowledge that it's here, I release it, you know, and let it out. And it's about the self-talk.
And allow, because ultimately that empowers us as well, because we can take back control totally and feel that we can do something rather than just being victims, and the whole knock-on effect of that, really.
It's about what raises you up, you know, than what drags you down.
How can I feel good in this moment? And I know one of Louise's famous ones as well is all is well, and just trusting that all is well. But I suppose the next stage, so having gotten yourself and you know, so much personal achievement, even just being able to, I mean, I'm saying even just, and that's such a remarkable achievement to be here, to be sitting engaging, but your next stage of your journey, having inspired yourself so much, was then to bring that out and to inspire particularly women. That's your a big passion.
I know. Well, you know, as we talked about earlier, in the early days it was very hard to get something that was motivational, and it was only in books, and you know, some people thought I was crazy with all these books that I read and all this stuff I was saying, and what was it, you know, but I lived in my own bubble, and I suppose I was fortunate enough to have my own business as well, so that, you know, you're in control, I suppose, of what you think. But you know, no matter where you work, you know, whatever you do, you're in control of your own mind and how you want to think about it. And I realised that I had healed myself. Then I went and done the integrated energy therapy, because you really, really have to heal yourself first before you can help anyone else.
And that's the oldest, I mean, physician heal thyself is the oldest words, isn't it? And you have to keep self-care as well ongoing.
Oh, absolutely.
So important, isn't it?
Yes, because about 3 years ago I was doing a lot of public speaking, and then I found that the day afterwards I was so exhausted, and and it was taking so much out of me, and I wasn't looking after myself as well. So I stopped all of that for a little while, went into more personal development, and done my IET masters and whatnot. And now, the time is right. It's perfect time, and now for me to go out there and help other women.
Yeah. Brilliant. And that was, as I said, we met at a Woman Inspiring Women event.
Yeah.
And the centre for that, certainly for now, is the hub here in Newry.
That's right.
That's such a beautiful space as well.
It's fabulous.
And the colours and everything. And so the vision for Woman Inspiring Women, what's the bigger picture?
Well, the bigger picture for it is to help every woman to become more confident, to find herself, to really come home to her, because as women we love too much almost. We give and give and give and give, and feel guilty for taking back that wee bit of time for us. But we have to come around to think of, we have to look after ourselves before anyone else. So it's about allowing yourself to have that time, to build your self-confidence, to really find what your qualities are, what your strengths are, so that you stand a wee bit stronger in yourself, and you know what you really are a voice for.
Yeah, and I love that. We were chatting just before we came on air, and we were talking about what are you a voice for, and that's such an inspiring question really to ask, isn't it? Because when we can get in touch with what different things will be different people's passion. There's no two people in the world will have exactly the same. They might have loosely the same goals, but none of them will be exactly the same. And it's once we know and we have that sense of purpose, then it's how we can integrate that in. And for not necessarily for everybody, certainly my own feeling is that doesn't necessarily have to mean that you give up everything that you do and you do a particular thing you're passionate about full time or anything. There can be an integration of what's happening in your life. So it might be a particular charity or a charitable cause that somebody's really passionate about that they can integrate in and maybe never realised even that they were.
And it's wonderful, like if you just give an hour, to something that it's wonderful how you expand yourself out, and you feel that sense of achievement and you feel that sense of belonging to something. I recently have given some of my time to the Princess Trust and the young entrepreneurs, and I realised through helping them how far I've come on my journey, and how much that I know, and to help them, to put together their lives. It's just absolutely wonderful. But I'm further down the road with that, where the Woman Inspiring Women, we're still all growing together, and if there is a business element, if you want help with your business, if you want to start a business, but those are all things that we'll look at further on down the line with Woman Inspiring Women, for support there, on a personal and a business level. But first of all, we have to start with the fundamentals, the basis. Do you know yourself? Do you know your qualities? Do you know your strengths? Do you know what you stand for yourself?
Yeah, and a big thing for me, one of the things that motivated me or inspired me, we keep going back to this word inspired, but that inspired me to go along that night was initially to the first meeting, was that it's, I think, having a certain degree of accountability. Some coaches, life coaches, not referred to as an accountability partner, but having that sense of, well, from month to month I'm meeting and taking time out, and what I do in between is up to me. But there's something that keeps me focused on a point, because having deadlines and having a focus point and having somebody who might check in with you, or even the thought that they might, is a great way of motivating, certainly for me, and we're all motivated differently, but that for me, because the long finger keeps getting longer and longer and longer.
I know.
And as I said, that's my own personal experience. But because other things get in the way, whereas I think having a monthly time out to meet up and to just have a chat.
And it won't be huge, big things. It'll be very slowly, just one wee piece at a time. And then at the end of every quarter, we plan to do a full day workshop, that you can go a wee bit deeper into the 3 things that you covered over the 3 months. you know, if you like to go deeper down into those 3 subjects, or if you just want to skim the surface, if that's just enough for you now, well, that's fine. You'll have an opportunity to do it again at another time.
Yeah, which is a lovely, and again, it's that thing that I think sometimes we're often put off about joining groups and things like that, because maybe we think, well, I'll have to do this and I'll have to do that. And certainly the feel that I got was, no, it's you, you're the driving force behind it. There's just a support network of yourself and other women as well, because it becomes a group then, and it becomes each member is supporting each other, isn't it?
Well, that's the way it is, Joanne, in life. You know, this is a community that we've started, and without the, you know, the people, there is no community. And as you know yourself, one person is good at something and one person's good at something else, and you know, there's times where one person's up and the other one's down, and we'll all be there on the up and down scale, you know, and it's about that support thing, all supporting each other. Like if you go back years ago, women used to meet, you know, for afternoon tea, and that was about supporting each other, you know.
Or even without it being as formal as that, maybe when women were walking and stuff, where I've often talked about, like I remember Mummy saying my granny used to, like, she would have walked down the village every day. But they're friends that she met, or she went to church, or she went to mass, and maybe they met outside mass for time for a chat after that. Whereas our lives have changed really now quite considerably, haven't they? And you know, you pull up, you drive up to your front door in your car, and you might not talk to anybody in that space, you know, in that.
And it can be lonely and isolating. Like I remember whenever I had the twins, and I'd take them out in the afternoon for a walk in the pram, and most women were working. So, you know, I might walk 3 miles with the pram and never meet one. There's that. And that's quite sad.
And that's where society
has felt isolating for me. And if you have a business, like I've been and still am a businesswoman, and you know, you're running a business, and that's very isolating. And especially whenever the twins were with me, you know, and around, you know, and at home, and came to me to my business after school, and you only had time to be a businesswoman, a mother, a wife, and look after a home. And believe you me, there was never no time for you.
And I think one of the things is that the difference, and I know obviously, thankfully, we've come a long way, but one of the big differences is, like, a man, for example, can nip off to the pub fairly easily, fairly without anybody thinking anything majorly bad, no guilt, no nothing. But even when he's there, it's socially acceptable, and I think that's a great resource that a man has, that they can, because even, you know, if maybe a man that's been widowed or something like that, he can go out and he can go and he can sit and have a pint. I'm not saying he has to be there all night or anything, or that it has to be a problem, but he can sit and have a pint and he'll chat to somebody about something. Whereas women don't have that same outlet really, and it's so it's fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic to have that. And I read recently just where they were saying, you know, you become a product of the 5 people you spend most time with. And it's a choice then to surround yourself with positive people who can inspire you and uplift you, whereas very often we're surrounded by people who are willing to pull us down all the time.
And that is another thing, you know, that you have to be wary of, is like, you know, how are people affecting me? Do I walk away feeling exhausted and drained? Well, you know, it's about raising your awareness and saying, you know what, they might be part of my family, but we'll not see them as much because they're taking too much out of me.
Or they're making me feel bad about myself, or whatever comes in and around that.
And whenever you know who you are, you know, and know what you stand for, then you can just observe them. I call it their movie.
Just
they're in their movie, and I'll just observe it
and step back from it. Well, Roslyn, thank you so much. We're almost on time here now this afternoon to finish off our interview, but thanks a million, and I hope everybody's enjoyed certainly Roslyn's positivity as much as I have whenever I've met her. And your website will be up on screen as well, so people will be able to contact in. But just to remind people, it's womaninspiringwomen.com, and you can keep up to date if there's anything, or certainly get in touch with myself or Roslyn if you'd like more information on the upcoming meeting. The next meeting's in Newry on the
first Thursday
of every month.
I can't remember the date, so sorry.
The second, but that's the first Thursday of every month at the Hub in Newry, which is in John Mitchell Place there.
From 7 to 9.
From 7 till 9 p.m. Yeah. So, and I know there's also options for, maybe not necessarily through the Woman Inspiring Women Network, but for linking in with yourself for coaching and yes. all different things. So anybody who's watching in other parts of the world and would like to get in touch with Roslyn, then please do so through the website as well. And I'll be in again on Thursday morning with Rowan, and we'll be chatting a bit more and see what excitement that brings. But anybody who's watching into Destination Wellbeing for the first time, we've a wide, I suppose on our website there, we've a wide variety of different topics that we've covered, and everything from fertility, reflexology, chemicals and cosmetics. There's a whole range of interviews there with really very inspiring people and people who've had different journeys of their own. So do please watch in on some of the other videos, and of course send us through any feedback that you might have or any guests that you might particularly like to hear me chat to. So it's always great to hear some suggestions and see what viewers are looking for. And until next week on Destination Wellbeing, thank you for watching in this afternoon, and thank you, Roslyn.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joanne.